For those of you who chose to skip the supplemental episode that came before this, here's a brief recap.
The idea of adding a female crime-fighter to Batman's family has been around since the mid-1950s, where a woman named Kathy Kane took up the mantle of Batwoman. Kathy was soon joined by her niece Betty Kane, who became Batgirl, spelled with a hyphen. The two fought alongside, well, mainly they just acted as love interests for the dynamic duo of Batman and Robin until the early 1960s. Then in 1967, DC, in conjunction with the producers of the Batman TV series, debuted a new Batgirl in the form of Barbara Gordon, daughter of the Gotham City Police Commissioner. Barbara would become far and away the most popular Batgirl, lasting until 1988 when she was paralyzed and attacked by the Joker. This would lead Barbara to take up the mantle of Oracle, elite computer expert of the DC Universe. Sometime later, during a storyline called No Man's Land, readers were introduced to a young mute girl named Cassandra Cain. Cassandra had been raised by her father, Master Assassin David Cain, to be an elite killer, never learning to read, write, or speak, just fight, read body language, and kill. However, after one kill, Cassandra fled her father and came across Batman and Oracle. Cassandra would eventually gain her voice and take up the mantle of Batgirl under Oracle's tutelage.
One thing about Cassandra Cain was that while she knew who her father was, she never knew exactly who her mother was. However, there was one likely candidate, Lady Shiva.
Lady Shiva is a master martial artist, bounty hunter, and assassin who's usually seen running around with Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins. Cassandra caught Shiva's eye and the two fought on two different occasions, with each winning on one separate occasion. Each time the two faced, it got personal, with Shiva even admitting to having known David Cain and wanting Cassandra to reach her full potential.
Running with the popular premise that Lady Shiva was indeed Cassandra Cain's biological mother, it was decided that the last 8 issues of the Batgirl series would be dedicated to Batgirl trying to find out her true origin. This is Batgirl, Destruction's Daughter.
Cassandra packs up to leave Bloodhaven, stopping at a nearby tea and coffee shop to leave a plant with her friend Brenda. As she exits, Cassandra bumps into a young man named Zero. Seeing this as a possible last opportunity to live a normal life, she offers to take Zero on a quick date. The two spend the entire day together, and Zero kisses Cassandra goodbye as she promises to call when she returns. As she hits the road, Cassandra wonders if Shiva experienced the same feelings with David Cain that she had just had with Zero. Was Cassandra a love child, an accident, or just a bargaining chip? Cassandra then stops at a roadhouse to grab a bite to eat. A few ruffians try to pick her up, but get tossed aside by the establishment's enforcer, Veraco, the Roadhog. Cassandra informs Roadhog that she can take care of herself, but he doesn't believe her, so she grabs him by one of his tusks and flips him onto a nearby table. Cassandra then leaves the establishment and a love-struck Roadhog behind. Cassandra arrives in Shiva's hometown of Detroit. She tracks down her rival's old apartment and asks an elderly resident if she knew anything about people who lived there before, when the Roadhog returns and interrupts her. The two begin fighting again, and the little old lady Cassandra was talking to gets hit by a chunk of car thrown by Roadhog. Except this isn't no ordinary old lady.
I should explain right here that this is a part of the story that ties into the DC Comics crossover event Infinite Crisis. In the story, a satellite known as Brother Eye was turning ordinary citizens into mechanized super soldiers called OMACs. If you recall, I did an episode of a lead-in series to Infinite Crisis called the OMAC Project that elaborates on this more.
The OMAC quickly takes down Roadhog and begins looking for Cassandra. She manages to avoid detection and then locates the picture she has of a young Shiva to begin looking elsewhere. This takes her to a local martial arts dojo run by a man named Ben Turner, aka the Bronze Tiger.
When Ben Turner was 10 years old, he witnessed an intruder attacking his parents. He killed the man, and ever since then gained sort of an anger management problem. In an attempt to overcome his problems, Turner moved to the region of Nanda Parbat to study martial arts, eventually gaining the mantle of the Bronze Tiger. However, along the way, Turner got brainwashed into becoming a member of the League of Assassins alongside Lady Shiva, and he's walked the line between hero and villain ever since.
Turner explains to Batgirl that Ra's al Ghul was interested in David Cain's philosophy of training loyal super assassins. Unfortunately, Cain's initial attempt collapsed when one of the kids killed all the others. So Cain decided to start from scratch with one child. When Cassandra was born, Cain called her the One Who Is All, as she was to possess the skills of the entire League of Assassins. When Batgirl asks about Shiva's whereabouts, Turner says he bumped into her a while back, but he never kept tabs. Cassandra leaves with only one option left: to contact Oracle and the Birds of Prey.
The Birds of Prey are a crime-fighting group founded by Barbara Gordon and Dinah Lance, aka the Black Canary. The group usually features an all-female lineup, and at this point also includes Helena Bertinelli, the Huntress, and time-displaced World War II fighter pilot Lady Blackhawk. Now, I should also point out that along this time that the relationship between Cassandra and Barbara got quite strained. Barbara, in a moment of frustration, referred to Cassandra as stupid for not following through on her literacy lessons. Also, Barbara got infected with a cybernetic virus that allowed her to temporarily access computers without actually having to be on the computer, although it still made her very ill in the process. That's why she's bedridden.
The birds pick Cassandra up, and she explains to Oracle that she needs to locate Shiva to know if the assassin is truly her mother. Oracle sets about trying to locate Shiva, while Canary takes Batgirl aside. Dinah reveals that she's been training with Shiva while rehabbing an injury. Cassandra is not pleased and is trying to extract information. Dinah only states that Shiva is looking for a new apprentice. Oracle then contacts Cassandra with information on Shiva. She was spotted boarding a train in Montenegro with several members of the League of Assassins. Cassandra then realizes that Shiva is going to be the League's new head trainer, or Ubu. With that, the birds drop Cassandra off at a small train station just outside the Balkan Mountains.
As you may recall, the League of Assassins is the main attack troop for the timeless eco-terrorist Ra's al Ghul. Except at this point, Ra's was actually dead after having been decapitated by his daughter Nyssa. Nyssa had a special sword that had been bathed in a Lazarus pit, and that made its wounds irreparable. Also, this allowed Nyssa to gain control of the League of Assassins. That is until later, when Ra's al Ghul managed to somehow find a cure for getting your head chopped off.
Cassandra makes her way to the assassin's headquarters, though not undetected. Batgirl begins crawling through the facility's ventilation system when Nyssa springs a trap, causing Cassandra to fall in on one of Triva's training sessions. Shiva's class immediately kneels before Batgirl. Shiva then introduces Batgirl to her class, and Cassandra recognizes some familiar faces.
Amongst the students in Shiva's class is Shrike, a name you might recognize from my Robin Year 1 review. Now, this isn't the Shrike that appeared in that story, but it's rather Boone, Dick Grayson's rival from the Robin Year 1 story. Also appearing is Alpha, who is Cassandra Cain's former sparring partner, with whom she had actually clashed with in Gotham on a couple of occasions, and the two wound up forming an uneasy truce. Also appearing are Wham Wham, Kitty Cumbria, White Willow, Ox, and Tigress, though not the same Tigress from the Hawkman review from a few episodes back.
Shiva explains that the lesson of the day is finishing what one starts and attacks Batgirl. Cassandra tries her best to avoid conflict until Shiva rips off the lower part of her mask. Batgirl then grabs Shiva by the throat and asks the assassin if she is Cassandra's mother. Shiva just fights back, ripping off more of the mask along the way. As this is happening, Nyssa al Ghul calls in some help that arrives just as Batgirl begins to gain the upper hand. Cassandra gets halted by Mr. Freeze. Nyssa al Ghul arrives and rewards Freeze with access to the cold room. Nyssa then makes Batgirl watch Shiva's training session. Cassandra isn't entertained at all until Shiva enters the fray. Seeing the expertise put on display gives Cassandra a perverse joy. Nyssa then picks Batgirl up to give her a tour of the Lazarus Pit. She then makes Cassandra an offer: become the Messiah for the League of Assassins, or be consoled to a consortium of villains who want revenge on her. When Cassandra fails in giving an instant response, Nyssa orders her sent to the cold room. There, Batgirl finds Freeze inspecting the suspended animation chamber containing his wife Nora.
It's never been fully revealed what disease Nora Freeze actually had when she had to be cryogenically frozen by her husband Victor. All that is known is that Victor's search for a cure led to the accident that gave him his current condition. Also, there was a storyline in which Nora's body had been toppled over and shattered. However, it appears that at some point Nyssa managed to find the body, get it reassembled, and use it as leverage on Victor Freeze.
Batgirl pleads with Freeze to help her, but he refuses. Nyssa promised a cure for Nora. Cassandra points out the cure has been there the whole time. It's the Lazarus Pit. Freeze frees Batgirl, and the two grab Nora to head towards the Lazarus Pit. As the guards arrive, Victor tosses Nora's body into the pit. Nothing happens at first. Then a being emerges, except it's not exactly Nora. The being that was Nora Freeze begins wreaking havoc and splashing the waters of the Lazarus Pit around. Wherever the water splashes, plants begin to grow, and rat carcasses begin to revive. Batgirl prevents Nyssa from taking Nora out and allowing the resurrected woman to raise an army of the dead. Nyssa explains that Nora was frozen too long, which resulted in her absorbing the properties of the Lazarus Pit. Shiva and her students jump into the fray, as Nyssa also points out that the zombies aren't actually alive, which means Batgirl can cut loose. Unfortunately, many of Shiva's students are not quite battle-ready and soon get overwhelmed. Batgirl tells them to clear out as Freeze confronts his wife, who has rechristened herself Lazara. Nyssa tries one more time to take Lazara out, only to be halted again by Batgirl. Freeze then utilizes his last chance and detonates a self-destruct mechanism in the cold room. The headquarters begins to collapse around the couple as Batgirl gets out, followed by White Willow, Tigress, and Ox. Batgirl then promises to show the trio a new path as they leave, but they are being followed by Shiva and several of her loyal assassins. Shiva looks on as Shrike, Kitty, and Wom Wom jump Batgirl and her followers. Cassandra tells her followers to stay behind and listen to her. She tells them to run as the assassins begin to close in around them. Batgirl begins fighting Shrike, Kitty, and Wom Wom as Alpha and someone else look on. Just as everyone begins to get gassed, Alpha and the other leap in. Ox, White Willow, and Tigress then return, only for Ox to immediately be taken out by the unknown assassin, causing the other assassins to scatter. Batgirl knows who this is. It's Kane's first attempt at raising an assassin, the Mad Dog. Mad Dog goes after White Willow, only for Batgirl to intercede. It's then that Alpha turns around and shoots at Mad Dog. Cassandra tries to stop her former trainer and tells Alpha to stay behind with Tigress and White Willow as she goes after Mad Dog. Shiva looks on as Batgirl desperately searches for Kane's first killer. Mad Dog leaps out at Batgirl and then begins pursuing her. He's stronger than her and she fails to mount any sort of physical attack. Cassandra tries to flee again, only for a tree branch to give way. It's then that Shiva steps out to offer Cassandra some advice. Shiva tells Cassandra to remember that both Mad Dog and her are raised to be killers. Cassandra then doubles back to Alpha and the others. She intercedes in Mad Dog's attack and gets stabbed through the chest. With her last bit of strength, Cassandra knocks Mad Dog out and collapses. As Cassandra dies, Shiva steps out and picks her up. Shiva then begins to flash back to her past in Detroit. She grew up in an exhibition fighting team with her sister Carolyn. It was there that she caught the eye of David Kane. Kane saw in Shiva the same capacity for anger that he possessed. Anger that needed to be fed. So Kane had Carolyn killed. Meanwhile, Cassandra receives a visit from an old friend, Stephanie Brown.
Okay, I know I'm skipping over a lot with this character, but I'm trying to keep this from getting too unwieldy, so I'm keep trying to go as short as possible here. Stephanie Brown was the daughter of a villain known as the Clue Master. In an attempt to spoil her father's misdoings, she donned the identity of the spoiler and began fighting crime. Along the way, she became a love interest for Tim Drake Robin and a good friend of Cassandra Cain Batgirl. However, Steph had a rather rash and impulsive nature about her that never really gained Batman's approval and led to strained relationships all around. Stephanie was killed during a storyline called War Games, though she eventually got over it.
Stephanie tells Cassandra that there is no going back. Mad Dog killed her. Cassandra continues to fight and says that Bloodhaven needs her. It's then that Steph reveals the truth. Bloodhaven has been destroyed. Brenda and Zero are gone.
Okay, this is another Infinite Crisis reference. See, in that story, an irradiated villain named Chemo got dropped from an airplane into the city of Bloodhaven, causing it to basically be turned into a nuclear wasteland.
Cassandra begins to weep over the life she could have spared. She then catches on fire and springs out of the Lazarus pit. Shiva ensnares Cassandra in a net in order to contain her while the Lazarus madness subsides. It's then that Shiva begins to reveal the truth. After David Kane had trained Shiva to the best of his abilities, he approached her with a new offer. She agreed to become the vessel for the ultimate assassin. After Cassandra's birth, Shiva left to train further. The reason? She needed to be ready till the time she fought her daughter one last time, to the death. Shiva frees Cassandra, who's now over the Lazarus madness, and the two begin fighting. The fight is evenly matched till Shiva slips up and Cassandra snaps her neck. Cassandra then picks up her dying mother and prepares to drop her into the Lazarus pit, which Shiva objects to. Except Cassandra has other plans. She impales Shiva on a hook above the pit. Shiva, at peace, finally dies. Cassandra begins to walk away, and Shiva slowly begins to slip off the hook. With that, Cassandra leaves, ready to forge her own path. Not just as Batgirl, but also as Cassandra Cain, and find her true destiny in life.
This concludes Batgirl Destruction's Daughter, and thus the Batgirl solo series. Now, Cassandra Cain's adventures would continue, though not really in a way that readers enjoyed, but eventually she would return to the role of being a hero. But those are later stories for later times. As for this story, well, I think it's pretty darn good. I think it's got a nice, real good pacing throughout all of it. The characters are solid all the way through. The fight scenes and the choreography and the artwork is really top-notch and exciting and dynamic. Like I said, I think the artwork is top-notch throughout all of this, really. I mean, there's really no flubs anywhere. That being said, I think this thing is a little too padded out at 8 issues. Even though I said the pacing was really good, there are some points that just don't feel necessary. The whole Lazara Freeze thing goes nowhere. To be honest, Shiva's class of new assassins doesn't really do much of anything. I mean, they could have just disappeared after a while. They didn't really need to serve any purpose. Also, the Infinite Crisis references just kind of feel like filler. I don't think they really needed to be addressed at all at that point, except maybe the destruction of Bloodhaven, but I can kind of forgive that. And that is what kind of unfortunately keeps a pretty good story from being a great story. And that is why I'm going to give Batgirl, Destruction's Daughter, a B. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Remember, you can help support my work at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcatproductions, where you can request a trade to be placed in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box.